Hi everyone, welcome to our series that we're calling Renowned Gamer Stories, which is pretty exciting. I am joined by Sam from 8-Bit.
Hi, how you doing, Ryan?
Hey, I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you very much.
Good.
Surviving.
Well, that's the main thing. I think we all are just about hanging on. But thank you so much for taking some time out of your incredibly busy schedule, I should think, to have a chat.
It's manic. I mean, I'm plugging up mouse holes with wood filler and expanding foam, and then later on I'll walk to Tesco, and then I might have a nap, and then I'm going to pick up my kids. I mean, it's thrilling.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
apart from the mouse holes bit.
Yeah, that's awful.
Get a cat. Just get a cat. So before we go any further, I suppose it makes sense for you to give us just an overview of who you are and what you do.
Right, so I'm an actor and a comedian type person. And the reason I'm here, I suppose, is kind of a fluke of circumstance because Steve McNeil and I are in a double act, and we were taking shows up to the Edinburgh Comedy Festival. We were doing okay. Steve had this idea that we could sort of set up a Nintendo Wii, stick it on like a blanket held at the back of the stage, project onto that, and then get comedian friends at sort of midnight in Edinburgh to come along and play against each other. The reason we did it is because they gave us a free room to do it in, and we just thought it would be fun. And then it sold out immediately. So years of kind of honing scripts, working out, is Kidderminster funnier than Cheshire, like little wordplay and stuff like, what's funny here? And in the end, what really caught on was, Josh Widdicombe playing against Carrie Lloyd on Mario Kart. That's what the people seem to want, and so that's what happened.
That's what they want, but it's because it emits this incredibly innocent joy in people. Like video games really uncover the child, I find.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been out of gaming, so I mean, I sort of, loved video games when I was younger, and just as video games were becoming what I'd always dreamt video games could be, I kind of lost my way with them. So when we started doing that, we found out that people playing video games, adults playing video games, which people who play video games already knew this, but you sort of start to see this real competitive spirit, how it brought people together. Obviously sort of, like esports and things are a thing, but for people who aren't gamers, that it was as thrilling as watching a boxing match it's this incredibly competitive, exciting thing. And of course, you've got Mario Kart and things like that, so it was just sort of incredibly fun to watch and so silly. There's that side of it, and it really kind of brought people together. With the show, I was the non-gamer, so we would split the audience into two halves. So the non-gamers were kind of cheering for me, and the gamers were cheering for Steve, and the audience was always a mix, so it kind of really opened it up for some people. It definitely opened it up for me and got me kind of back into it. Yeah. Just realising how far it had all come and what could be done with it.
Let's literally start from there. So what is your kind of earliest gaming memory or favourite childhood game? Where did you start?
I mean, we had friends who had Commodore 64s and Amigas, but I mean, I started with a Spectrum 48K, and I had this game called Xenon, which was a sort of a top-down shooter, and it took, I think, about an hour to load. And then when you played it, it was unbelievably hard. And my little brother, I used to lie to him and sort of tell him I was a programmer, and that when it was loading, the screen was kind of going like that. I would be furiously tapping the keys like that, going, like I was like some sort of genius, like I was just creating it. And then when it loaded, I was like, okay, I think it's ready. Mine was blown.
It may be a little unstable, but I think we can play now.
How come if you created the game, you can't get past the first turret? So that was then, and there was one, I want to say Jetpack. I think it was called Jetpack. You're just kind of going up and down and sort of shooting various sort of asteroidy things. But then it really kicked off for me with the Master System. I decided, because I started kind of getting video game magazines and things, and I decided that I was going to go Master System over NES. Mm-hmm. Reason is that I'm a shallow person, and I read that the Master System had better graphics.
I mean, it's logical though.
Yeah, so I thought better graphics, better games, which I don't think was true, looking back on it. But also, the Master System came with a light gun, and I loved Operation Wolf in the arcade. And you could play, the fact that I could play Operation Wolf, I think it was on the Master System.
At home.
Unless my memory is wrong. And I think it was, yeah, because it was a light gun, which I don't think you got on the Mega Drive. So yeah, it was actually playing Operation Wolf on my TV, little 12-inch, 14-inch TV at home. And the game, of course, was complete bobbins, but that didn't seem to matter at the time.
It didn't matter, and
it didn't matter.
Incredible that just a grouping of pixels to our childlike minds were like, whoa, this is the best, and it didn't feel any different.
I was invested in it.
Yeah, I don't think
I was emotionally invested in it.
The feeling I had playing video games at that age is exactly the same. Like I don't feel like, oh, but it wasn't as interesting to look at when I was younger. It's the same, right? It's the same world that I stepped into.
Yeah, because it was the most that could be achieved at the time, and so it was absolutely incredible.
It was amazing.
And then also my other favourite game was Wonder Boy 3. Is it Dragon's Quest?
That rings a bell.
Like that. Or was it Dragon's Heart or Dragon's... Anyway, but it was amazing. And I got really emotionally invested in it. I remember getting stuck on this level where I was a mouse. And I was on it for ages. And there's a new version that came out that Steve showed me, like with all real new graphics and stuff. And the game's about 5 minutes long. But as a child, it was this fucking epic. It was like War and Peace.
Yeah, you'd be there forever. Unbeatable.
Completing that, I felt emotional. I think I cried.
That's beautiful.
It was a beautiful time.
Beautiful moment. So how, especially in the modern age, and let's try not to think too much about the absolute hellscape that we live in, but how important do you think games are as an escape, as a release to people?
Well, from doing 8-bit and hanging around with Steve McNeil, I didn't realise how important they were. I don't have the attention span, unfortunately. Sometimes I can get embroiled in things, but sometimes I can walk away from a game, like if it just becomes too much. But, the dedication that some people have, and now the games are so huge, you're downloading games in like 40 gigabits or something like Gigabits?
Bytes? If I'm wrong as well, this is going to be awful.
This is terrible, because I don't know. But they're enormous now, so they do require this level of. I started playing Wolfenstein: Shadow of the Colossus. Is that the right one?
Shadow of the Colossus, separate Wolfenstein.
Well, what's the one? The new Colossus.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was amazing. But I was like, I'm going to go play that again. But unfortunately, I'm stuck in this room, like the size of a bathroom, and I can't fucking get out of it. So I tried to play it again. I'm just locked in this room going round and round shooting bombs at things that are about that far away from me. I'm done. I'm about to start again.
Sam, I've got to tell you, and this is a very personal secret that I'm about to give to the world, potentially. There's nothing wrong with looking at walkthroughs. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all. If you're stuck and you've been there for ages, you've got to. If
anyone ever watched Go 8-bit, they might remember that I was playing A Thief's End. And quite early on, when you go to this auction and you steal something, you have to go through this room that has large wine barrels in. And that room is basically, you go in, you move a barrel, you walk behind it, and you go to the next bit. It's not a big thing. I got stuck in that room in 2017.
Are you still there?
And I had to watch. So I got stuck there for about a year, and I watched a walkthrough video, and I still couldn't work it out.
But
I only got out of there in 2020.
Amazing.
Thanks to that. Yeah.
Well done. But I think it's something that I've learned from working with game development. Don't overthink it. Overthinking it is the worst thing you can do as a gamer. Like, you have to break down any conceptions you have about how difficult something's going to be, because chances are that the designers have really laid it out for you. Yeah,
but I don't have that kind of lateral thinking brain, so I can get stuck on bits that the developers would have been like, no, you just walk forward, and I'd be like, so I go left, and I climb down the mountain, and then I
But there was this brick, and it was a slightly different colour, so I was just holding it for a while and thinking it might. Yeah, that's me all over. Like, I feel like we might be the same gamer, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's very hard for me to get through one of these 30-hour games. I could never be a games reviewer, I mean, my review of A Thief's End would have just come out.
With a whole chunk in the middle there about that room.
The review would mainly be about, like, it was really good, but the barrel bit was too hard.
Do you have a favourite? Obviously, this is our love letter to Guildford, the Guildford Games Festival. Do you have a favourite Guildford game by any chance, or studio, or person?
So I was unaware prior to this of this kind of developers cabal that lived in Guildford, that there was this thing.
This is what we want, to teach people that it exists if they don't know.
I had no idea.
Amazing.
But, firstly, I mean, Little Big Planet, I've only played once, but I played as myself. Because the developers for the show made a brand new level, that was just me and Steve having to get away from Dara.
I didn't know that.
It was incredible. It was probably one of the best moments, just kind of going, why has someone spent time doing this? But it was brilliant, and I won.
Awesome. If that level still exists, I'd like to see it. Little Big Planet is probably my favourite game of all time.
It's amazing. But the game for me, so I had a PS2, and I was playing, previously I'd played Destruction Derby. I liked things where, on the PS1, I liked the idea that when the car crashed, it broke. Mm-hmm. Because that really bugged me in games when you'd hit a wall at 150 miles an hour and there was no damage to the car, and so playing those games where your car is actually getting beaten up. So then Burnout on PS2, I think it was, where you actually had to crash, and it was all about creating the most amount of damage, sort of flying over, crashing into tuk-tuks. You get money for points for tuk-tuks, and then an 18-wheeler would come over and crash. So when I found out I was going to do this, I downloaded Burnout Paradise City.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, so much fun. Like the controls for the driving are completely arcade, and you can do it 200 miles an hour and be weaving in that traffic impossibly, but it doesn't. And it feels like the game is helping you in a way, but it doesn't feel like it. If you see what I mean, you still feel responsible for it. It's loads of fun. So I would say Burnout.
I think that's a fantastic choice, and very much something that as Guildfordians we're very, very proud that Burnout was made in our town. And also there are some amazing stories about the development of that game. I'll see if I can find the podcast. I'll send them over to you. But there's some really good ones. Just the amount of work that those guys did, and how difficult it was to pull it all together, and just how fantastic it turned out.
It's so beautifully done. Like it's, I'm kind of wary of games that at the beginning I was like, is this just like a game full of side missions? Do you know what I mean? Like in GTA, like you have races. So I was concerned that maybe it would feel, but it doesn't. It feels like you're progressing. Progression is quick, and the handling and the look of it and the soundtrack. I think it's all just perfect. I think it's great.
Fantastic choice. Do you have, and of course, your work with Go 8-Bit and all of that stuff. I'm sure you have many amazing gaming moments that you've experienced. But what would be your number one?
It's a toss-up between actually completing A Thief's End and beating Steve McNeil on television at Mario.
Right, I'm going to... which Mario are we talking here? Mario Kart?
It was... Oh, God, was it the original? On the NES, I think, Super Mario World.
Amazing.
And we basically just did a race to the end of the level. And it was nail-biting. It was thrilling, because there's no way I should have won. Like Steve is Nintendo. He loves Mario, and just to thrash him publicly I think that's got to be it.
That's glorious. Absolutely glorious. And all filmed. You've got stills of that, I assume, up on the wall somewhere to.
And even if it wasn't, it's all in it.
Whenever I close my eyes.
Yeah. Even now, if you look at Steve, later on, if you speak to Steve, you'll notice. Look in his eyes; it's still there.
Well, I've actually written it down to make sure that I mention it to him.
Oh yeah, please do.
No, I will. No worries. He's next, so I'll get him.
Good.
And I suppose, I haven't asked this question before to anyone, so I'm interested to see what kind of answers we get from this group, as it were, in particular. But if you could invite 3 gaming characters to dinner, or breakfast, or whichever is your favourite. Ideal, meeting of minds, even if some of them are pixelated.
Okay. Vega from Street Fighter 2.
Scary, but good choice.
Because what's going on with that guy?
Yeah, he's nuts, right? There's definitely some stories to be told.
I like, he's kind of, and he's very now, he's kind of, I feel like he's kind of gender fluid and cool, and I think he'd be, I think, be quite a sexy guest.
Good choice, sexy guest.
Wonder Boy's there.
Oh yeah.
Because he'll remember me.
Yeah.
That time. And Nathan Drake's wayward brother from A Thief's End. What's his name? Sam.
Yeah.
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 Because he seems more fun than.
He does, doesn't he? He does seem to be a bit more of a cad almost.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's going to come round. He's not really going to eat his dinner, and then it's going to get pretty heavy later on.
Yeah, for sure. And you're going to be scaling buildings.
Vega there. We're going to send Wonder Boy to bed. I'll put Wonder Boy. I've got kids. I'll put Wonder Boy to bed.
That's
it. Me and Vega. I've just invited men. That's terrible.
Well, I mean, it really depends what kind of evening you're planning, I suppose. If you're just going to be talking about, I don't know, what would Vega talk about at a dinner party? I mean, does he say anything?
Spanish football or something? No, he'd be talking about. I don't know. Something kind of stereotypically Spanish.
More than likely, yeah. Barcelona. Oh, I really want that to happen. I want someone to draw each of these pretend dinner evenings. I think it could be quite an interesting little. Social media.
We're going to have octopus.
Oh, nice. Well, that was very fancy.
Great octopus, yeah.
Before I let you go, it's kind of an obvious one, but I'm going to go with it anyway. How do games inspire your work, would you say?
Well, when we started doing the show, it became very, with the live show, it was all about me versus Steve. And that's very easy because, I can spend hours just putting him down, making jokes about his, personality or lack thereof, his physical appearance. And that was the makeup of the show. But then I started to learn more about games. I was very worried when we got to the TV show because I was like, how am I going to make jokes about video games? So it was a real kind of baptism of fire, start to get into games. We had a little games room set up. So it inspired me, I suppose, in a sense that working with material that I was not familiar with and sort of having to kind of work on the fly, making jokes about video games. Because you can't just make jokes about video games if you don't know anything about them. So
tricky.
They inspired me to work a little bit harder.
Yeah. Well, that, makes perfect sense. And it must have been really interesting. Obviously you've got the background knowledge of, playing games when you were younger, et cetera. But how, just that in itself, stepping into a world where everyone else has got this huge kind of knowledge base about something and yours is, there, but maybe 20 years old or whatever, 15, 10, 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
So how did you actually, were there any particular channels that you used on social media or YouTube, anything like that kind of helped you keep up to date with it all?
So I started playing again, is what I did. Got a PS4 and just started playing through the games. Vice City and then GTA 5 was the one where I'm like, that's when I was sort of mind blown. Wow, games are incredible. The artistry that goes into it. And it wouldn't be fair just to go out there and make lame jokes about gamers being nerds and stuff. Because you're talking about someone's passion. And as you're saying, there's this depth of knowledge about them. So you can't just go in and be glib and make the obvious gags. And people do really respond. Gamers did really respond to us actually having some, especially Stephen, Ellie, and Dara, of course, who are sort of, I would say, proper gamers. But me actually still having a working knowledge of games that affected me and things that were coming out, and not being a completely ignorant to it, which I think would have been a bit cheap. So yeah, it was quite hard. But then at the end of the day, you're getting paid to play video games, so it's not that hard.
That's the thing, sometimes it's something that happens quite a lot within the industry as well. We quite often have those, hellish days at however many hours long or whatever, but then you just think, did you just get to talk about video games all long? They didn't all day, didn't they?
It could be worse.
Wasn't that
and
bad?
People are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Even with my limited knowledge, talking to you, I find that you can talk about video games because you actually have more knowledge than you think you do. Even if you don't, I don't consider myself a proper gamer. My whole role was to not be a gamer, but there's huge parts of my childhood and my life. Vice City was way before me and Steve were doing anything, I think. And that game blew my mind. Like, I mean, I know those are the AAA titles, the big titles. You know, I'm not playing anything niche, but you know, I just got absolutely engrossed in that. I just thought it was incredible.
I think that's what's so wonderful about games is there's enough spaces for each of us to have a niche to a certain extent, but a broader conversation is still completely possible because the passion is the same.
It's the same as sort of mobile gaming. Like, people are quite sniffy about it. Like it's not real gaming, but that's gaming that's really opening up the world to lots of people. Tell
the thousands of children who are out playing Pokemon Go that's not real. Like, it was incredible. That was an absolute, I mean, just an amazing thing to witness.
That will be their Wonder Boy.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to give you one last question, which is, if you did work in games, where do you think which kind of category would you sit in as far as the game-making process?
Well, having worked with Ellie Gibson, I think I would be a gaming journalist, because when she was working for Eurogamer, it sounded like they had a lot of fun. So you don't have any of the responsibility of having to make the things, market them. I think you just get to play them, be snippy about them, and they get drunk on other people's money.
I'm in for that too, if there's space, by the way. I'm
game for
that.
Sounds really good.
Sam,
hey, can we send you a game and then pay you money and then you get drunk? All right.
Perfect. Yeah, where do I sign up? Take me in right now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sam, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me about this. Good luck with everything, whatever you're up to at the moment, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon.
Oh, it was so much fun. Thank you.